Welcome to today's episode of the Meinl radio podcast, where we dive into the world of jazz with renowned German jazz drummer and composer Wolfgang Haffner. Wolfgang has been a Meinl Cymbals artist since almost 20 years, celebrated for his dynamic playing style and innovative contributions to the genre. With a career spanning several decades, he has collaborated with countless notable artists and bands, showcasing his versatility and deep understanding of music. In addition to his impressive performance credentials, Wolfgang is also known for his engaging personality and insightful perspectives on music, making him a captivating guest for any podcast. I'm your today's host, Norbert Seymann, here at Meinl's German headquarters. Join us as we explore Wolfgang's musical journey, influences, and the stories behind his drumming. Enjoy. Okay, Wolfgang, do you see yourself more as a drummer, or do you consider yourself primarily as a composer?
Well, I would say I consider myself as a musician who choose the drums. And I'm coming from a classical music family, so my father was a composer, so I'm also composing, but I would say I'm a musician who plays drums and composes and arranges.
You were saying classical music. It's widely said that Johann Sebastian Bach is the beginning and the end of all music. Do you agree with that? And if so, why?
I mean, who knows what's the end of music? And I wouldn't say it was the beginning of the music, but it was the beginning of something really beautiful, I would say. But there was composers before, as we know. And came some great composers came after Bach. So, I mean, Mozart, Beethoven, just to name a few. So, but Bach was a very big influence on modern music, on my music world. It was a huge influence. And as I said, my father was a composer and he brought Bach into my life. So before I heard any kind of jazz or rock or anything, I was listening to Bach. So I grew up with Bach.
I also read somewhere that you are still to this day are influenced by the melodies and the music of Bach when you compose your own solo records, your own music, right?
Yes. I love the simplicity of Bach. I mean, it's very complex on the one hand, but a lot of the melodies go right into your ear, and that's something I really love, and I think I adapt from Bach. So I love nice harmonies, nice melodies. That's what I always call it. And those two are big ingredients, or the main ingredients besides the rhythm in my music. And Bach was also was a great jazz guy. I mean, he had some of the jazz chords, which we know nowadays from jazz. Bach already had it in his music. Amazing guy.
That's why it's widely said that Bach was the beginning of all music, because it seems that a lot of popular bands unknowingly sometimes were influenced by those melodies, like Beatles, for example.
Right,
when you hear Beatles melodies, probably they have also been influenced by that guy. By Bach.
Mean, I would say modern music would sound different without Bach.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hypothetical to say that, but I'm convinced.
Yeah.
But let's say the strongest influence from the classical side for me is Bach, no matter what.
You were about 6 years when you started to play drums, right? Six. What were the first drum styles you got into? How did it all start? What were the styles you learned to play?
Well, the very first song I can tell you I ever heard was Day Tripper by the Beatles.
Okay.
I remember that because I had three older sisters, and they were listening to Bach. They were listening to Wishbone Ash, Pink Floyd, Rolling Stones a little bit, but Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and like all these things. And so they brought one Beatles record home, and there was Day Tripper, was the first song I ever heard. And then I said, well, what a drummer. I mean, I realized even at the age of 6 that Ringo had something so, still has something so incredible, unique. And to this day, I would say Ringo is one of the greatest drummer ever entered this world. A huge influence for all of us.
Later on, any other styles that you got into?
I mean, the first things were more, let's say, rock or rock and roll based. So Ringo, Deep Purple, made in Japan. I heard a little later, maybe I was 8. I think it came out in 72 or 73. That great Live in Japan album with Highway Star and Smoke on the Water and stuff. And by the way, from that moment on, I said, well, one day I want to play in Japan because of that album. And I succeed.
You did.
Many years later. So yeah, so Ian Pace, big influence. Again, Deep Purple had Bach as a big influence. John Lord, a keyboard player, talks in his interviews about Bach a lot. Then, as I mentioned, Emerson, Lake and Palmer was an influence. Let's see, of course, Charlie Watts, Stones. And then, about 5-6 years later, when I was 12, I was going through the record collection of my father, and there was maybe 80% Bach, maybe a few percent Beethoven, Mozart, and Bruckner, Ravel, and there were 2 jazz records, just 2. And one was Albert Mangelsdorff, famous German trombonist, who took me in his band when I was 18. And the second album, which really turned my world upside down, was Dave Brubeck, Take 5. The album was called Time Out.
Yep.
And the drummer is called Dave...
Joe Morello.
The drummer is called Joe Morello, right? And what a musical drummer. I mean, to this day, Take 5 is one of the best examples for a musical drum solo, for me.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. And also, not to mention the sound he has on the drums. I mean, such warmth and full sounding drums. And that's something which actually never left me to this day. I'm looking for a full, fat, warm sound of drums and cymbals as well. I need warmth in my sound.
Sound is an issue I will get to later too. But with what you just said, if I'm right, you have been playing drums now for more or less 53 years in your life.
Yes.
Yes. And when you look back, what would you say were the various stages of your drumming journey? Like, when I look at your setups over the years, I notice a fundamental change in your setups.
Okay.
From this episode to this episode to this episode, spanning 53 years.
Right.
What are those, in your opinion, what are those levels of drumming that you reached over the years, and also what brought you to the next level then? What helped you to grow and to get you to the next level of your own drumming journey when you look at your entire career?
Well, in general, one thing leads to another. That's clear. So you do one concert, you do one show, one tour, or even like you practice on a regular basis, and each day you get somewhere else, and next day you start where you left it the day before. So over the years, it's hard to say. I mean, I always had a set with like 2-3 cymbals for many years. two rag toms, one floor tom, just a kick drum. I mean, nothing really special. Of course,
The positioning. I remember those early setups where you had the cymbals very high and very flat, and also the toms.
Okay.
And then, you developed into the style that you are playing now, with everything lower and like.
Now I understand what
How
you mean.
did this journey happen?
Well, this has to do with trial and error. What feels good to me? For example, my very first big concert I ever saw was at the age of 14. It was Status Quo. It was somewhere near my hometown, Nuremberg, and I saw this drummer. So he had one rag tom, two floor toms, and the cymbals quite high. So next day I went home, did that. A few weeks later I went to Würzburg, a town near Nuremberg, and saw Genesis for the first time. And it was, of course, Phil Collins, but also Chester Thompson playing. So two completely different drum sets, but then I was experimenting. Okay, Chester Thompson had the cymbals like this, and he had a lot of toms. Then the next day I set it up more in the style of Phil Collins, and I always tried, how does it feel when the cymbal is up here, or like the cymbal is like this, or the cymbal is like this. How does the sound change? How does it feel for my back? I think I messed up my back a little bit in the earlier days, because I was always like sitting like that. And now I take good care of that. But I found a position where I feel good. And there's nothing better than feeling good. Sure. I realized. And I had back problems and everything which comes along, but I was trying a lot of things. And of course, I'm influenced by music, Then I had a phase where I was listening to a lot of electronic music. Then I didn't need any toms, so I had some electronics on the left side. So I changed the whole setup. Sometimes for some periods in my life, I was sitting like having the drums like really flat, and I was sitting on top, so to speak. So I liked that. Then I recently found a picture where the cymbals were really up high. Also later on, it's not so many years ago actually. I mean, not really high, but for myself quite high, and I was sitting in the drums. So, when I feel comfortable, I wouldn't change it. But I always try to force myself to do the best for the music. And when I feel it's not really happening, I didn't have that for quite a while now, but I had these periods in my life, then I changed something. Yeah.
So the change came from yourself.
Yeah.
You noticed, okay, I feel I need to change something just to get new inspiration.
Well, yes, the lack of inspiration could be a point. Or, as I said, like from the back.
Physical aspect, yeah.
Physical aspects. Or that the music in a certain band I was playing didn't require any kind of tom-toms, or just required one cymbal, for example. Because I had a quite popular band for a while in the late 90s. And it was just kick drum, snare drum, hi-hat, and one cymbal. I didn't need any toms. And nobody told me you don't need toms, but I realized, because it was more like a James Brownie kind of thing, I don't need toms, and I know myself, when there's toms or when there's cymbals, I hit on them. So I said, well, I just take it away, and there was nothing, so I was just playing for 2 hours. Yeah. It was perfect.
You couldn't overplay.
Yes.
Because nothing was there.
Yeah. And nowadays I can have a lot of stuff, and I know, okay, I'm just using that cymbal or that drum in one song, and I really can focus on that. But earlier in my life, I couldn't, of course. Yeah. The more I had placed, the more I was hitting on everything.
Yeah. Interesting.
So I was basically fooling myself.
Yeah. When you look at these phases in your drum journey, can you mention one particular album or one special recording that represents that phase in your drumming journey, that would stand out for that particular part of your journey?
Well, there was a turning point, I would say. in 2004, I did an album called Zooming. And what I did before was more like American music based, like my first solo or one of my first solo albums called Music. The next one was Urban Life. It was also recorded in America and mixed in America. So I spent a lot of time there playing with guitarist Chuck Loeb. We did many tours, so I was going back and forth. I never lived in the States, but I was going a lot back and forth to studio work. There were still some of the big studios existing at that time. So, and then the Zooming album had a lot of influences by, European influences, I would say, Scandinavian. And so I was thinking, I don't need an LA drum sound for that. You know, that was a clear turning point, I would say. And since then, I'm experimenting for each album, go different directions. But I would say I've found something which I think is pretty much me. Not meaning that I'm doing the same thing all and over, but I have my taste is developed. So I mean, I know how I want to sound. That's for sure. But sometimes I'm forcing myself and say, okay, instead of having like a mid-tune snare drum, how would that song sound with a higher snare drum, for example? Or instead of a 22 Big Apple ride, how would it sound with something else, you know? So I'm experimenting, but I end up coming back, basically, which is not a bad thing at all, I think.
No.
There's famous drummers, they have one sound for decades, because the sound is them, you know. And also the setup. There's drummers, we know their setup for the last 40, 50 years. Steve Gadd, for example.
Yep.
It's pretty much the same, just to mention one. And so for over the last, I would say, 3-4 years, I have pretty much the same setup. Not meaning that this can't change anymore. You know, it also depends whether I play arenas, big concert halls, or I play in a club with my trio. So I would maybe take smaller instruments, but the bigger it gets, the bigger I would choose also my cymbals, my drums, and also the setup would probably, or most likely would change, because like you have video screens and stuff, and if you have cymbals here, I mean, it's maybe not
video editors get angry.
Yeah,
then
exactly. Yeah. So then I also would change probably. But for the stuff I'm doing now, I have my setup, which is very low key, so to speak. So I'm overlooking everything, and it feels great, and I see everybody, which is very important for me.
Everyone sees you too.
Eye contact, not only to the musicians but also the audience.
Yes.
Because I'm the leader in my band, and I'm mostly doing my own stuff. Yeah. So I'm communicating, and Munich is music is about communication.
Yes.
And transferring, you know, what I want to say with the music, and transfer it also like on with all senses.
You've recorded about probably around 400 albums in your life, and when I counted correctly, 26 solo albums, at least according to your website and your biography, discography. 26 solo albums. Is there one album, one session in particular that stands out to you? One that you will always remember, or one that for you personally has a special meaning? Not necessarily your own albums, but any of the recordings you've done. One you were particularly proud of, or have a funny story about it, or nice memories?
Well, there's a few which stick out. For example, I did 3 albums with Michael Franks. Michael Franks is a famous American jazz pop singer, and I was collecting his albums in the 80s, and it always had Dave Weckl on it, and mostly Steve Gadd. I think Steve Gadd is on almost every of his albums. And quite some years later, I got the call to fly to New York to do one of his albums. And there was the Brecker brothers in the studio, and Michael and Randy and Will Lee, the bass legend, Bob James. I mean, I was just looking around, being at, I don't remember, I think it was Avatar Studios, the X-Power station. So one of the big ones. And you're in the heart of the music world, basically. At that time, for sure. New York was still a melting pot, I would say. And looking around and all my heroes, that was one of the moments. But I had a funny story comes to my mind. I had a band called Metro with Chuck Loeb and Anthony Jackson, also bass legend from America. He brought me into that, and that basically started also a little bit of a career in America for many years for me. And so we were recording one album in LA, and one of the guys knew Steve Ferroni, the drummer. And Steve was in town, so he just hang out in the studio the whole day. And so the next day I had to go to the airport, go home. I said, how do you get to the airport? I said, taxi? Well, I'm your taxi driver. So the next day Steve Ferroni came with a huge pickup. And there was just my little bag on that huge pickup standing. This was so funny picture. And Steve drove me to LAX airport. A great guy, fantastic great guy.
Great drummer
there's
too.
many
Awesome
stories
drummer.
like that.
Yes.
You know, but from a recording point of view, like a studio, a special studio was Avatar, of course, in New York. But there's great studios over here. We did some classic recordings, I would say, at Hansa Studio in Berlin, for example. Also, the Funky ABBA album we did with Nils Landgren at ABBA Studio, Polar Studio was called, you know. That was also quite mind-blowing, because we did one song and one of the ABBA guys played with us. And there was the old engineer who did all the ABBA songs. And just to talk to these people, I mean, those are real legends.
Legends, yes.
You know, I mean, I have a little problem sometimes with the word legend, because there's a lot of people are called legends just because they are called legends. I don't know why, actually. But those guys who really created something so special, those are legends for me. And speaking of the drumming world, Steve Gadd is a legend for me. Ringo is a legend. But not everybody who can hardly hit 2 and 4 is a legend for me. So, you know. So I've been very fortunate, I have to say, to cross paths with a lot of these amazing people, and still do. I mean, many of those are not with us anymore. But there's also some great young people coming, or up and coming. I ran into on festivals, and I mean, there's so much great music around, so much great players. So and that's a great thing. The wheel keeps rolling, you know. It goes on and on. That's beautiful.
You mentioned up and coming drummers. I mean, of course, they're all influenced by you over the time too. And who are some of those up and coming drummers you would say make an impact to you, stand out in your opinion?
I mean, there's this Swiss drummer Arthur Natek, for example. I mean, I don't know how to define the up and coming. I mean, Arthur is very established.
He's
now,
an established guy, yes.
Now, but I mean, when did he start? Like 10, 12 years ago to establish his name?
Yes, around that time.
Around the time.
Yes.
And he's still quite young.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's a monster player.
Fantastic player, fantastic musician.
Fantastic musician.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I'm very much interested in musicians, drummers who play great music. I don't have much. I mean, I can respect when somebody has amazing drumming skills. I can stand there like a kid and say, "Wow, that was fast or great." Yeah, but why do you do this? You want to make music with this. That should be the goal. Yeah. Or like last year, I was running into my old friend Thomas Lang. This is not the up-and-coming drummer, but it was great to see him teaching younger guys and passing his amazing thing, what he developed with his influences, what he passed on, and so it's on us now to give it to the next generation as well. And for me, it's hard to say any names because I'm not really good with names, I have to say. But I hear a lot. Like when I'm out on festivals, I'm putting an ear in this room and listening to a drummer. Then there's somebody I know. Maybe there's Brian Blade playing. Maybe there's Gad playing. If you go to, let's say, North Sea Festival. But then I don't know. Sometimes I'm just seeing guys I never see in my life before, or I hear them. So it's just good to be out and open your eyes and ears and just get what these guys are doing.
There's one guy, who in my opinion will go very far. He's a very young drummer, and he's currently studying at the Pop Academy in Mannheim, where I met him, and he's outstanding considering how young he is and how mature his playing already is. Also his musicality. His name is Johann Jansen.
Okay.
You probably haven't heard this name.
No.
Just keep it in mind. Johann Jansen.
Johann Jansen.
He is one advice that I give to check out.
Super. I mean, a German guy who is also getting really popular international is Noah Fürbringer.
Yes.
Which I love.
Wonderful musician. Wonderful drummer.
Wonderful musician, right.
Yes.
But there's quite some out now.
Yeah.
Silvan Strauss.
Yes.
Great guy.
Yeah.
And I mean, internationally, wherever you go, wherever you look, there's so many great players. And this is an amazing thing that it goes on and on and on. And it's beautiful.
Yeah. And
music never stops.
No, it never stops. And whether we like it or not, something like social media and the internet has definitely helped to get names out and to make things approachable and available for everyone.
Absolutely.
It has definitely helped.
Yeah.
There is a lot of useless things on the internet, no doubt, but there is also a lot of good stuff. You just have to know where to look at.
Right. Yeah. And there's no point in always complaining because it is like it is. The internet is there, which is great, I think.
Yes.
It enables us to communicate very easily, get to know music from New Zealand. It's gonna be released today, and 2 seconds later you have it, can listen to it. It's beautiful.
It's beautiful, yeah.
It's just a matter of what you do with it. Mm-hmm. But it's not about complaining, adapt and do the best out of it and stay positive. That's most important.
Yeah. Let's talk about sound. In a video, I heard you say that when it comes to microphones, you prefer a clean sound without any flavor or manipulation. Mm-hmm. You said the sound should come from within. Mm-hmm. Do you also approach drums and cymbals in the same way?
First of all, the sound comes from me. And then I choose the instrument. Yeah. So the source is the player, which means if you don't know how you want to sound, you can have the most you can have the best cymbal, so to speak. 10 drummers tell you this is the most amazing cymbal.
The best equipment, yes.
It won't sound as good because you don't know how to play. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I know how I want to sound, and then I choose the instruments, and that's why I have the same cymbal setup for the last 10 years, I would say. Mm-hmm. 8 years, 10 years. Every once in a while there's a new one which I can get from you to check, which is beautiful, and you know how I want to sound, you know my sound. So you always recommend the right stuff, which is great for me. Same with the drums. I mean, why should I use a pinstripe drum head on the toms when I know I play a lot with brushes on toms? So I know this is not the right head, let's say, for me. For a stadium production, which I normally don't do, but I would probably use those kind of heads, So it's important that I know how I want to sound. So if I want a real fat sound, I shouldn't come with an 18-inch bass drum or with a 15-inch crash, because if it should sound like doosh, it doesn't sound like doosh, it sounds like bish. Yeah? So choosing the right instruments, the right size of an instrument, because you can easily, as we know, you can easily overplay an instrument. I mean, if you have a small cymbal and you hit like crazy, it won't sound anymore. Yeah? So every instrument, no matter whether it's cymbals or drums or violin or piano, every instrument has its range where it sounds good. But you have to find out yourself, because it...
How do you do that? How do you find your sound? How do you know how you want to sound? How do you know that? What helped you achieve that?
I tried at home, and I played, and I listened to my favorite drummers, and somebody wouldn't be my favorite drummer if I wouldn't like his sound, because sound is connected to the stuff you're playing. There's no way out. I mean, it's always like that. So, for example, I love Steve Gadd. He's one of my biggest influences, I would say. So, of course, I was listening to a lot of these albums he did, tuning my drums like that. And this, I'm talking about like 30 or 35 years ago, and it still stays with me. I love Jeff Porcaro, all fat-sounding drummers. Then I had a period where I was listening to James Brown a lot, different drum sound. And I recognized that nowadays what stays is the big, fat, warm sound. So I tried different other things, and they were okay in certain periods of my life. But for example, when I'm going in a studio now, or somebody sends me a track to play on, and well, I want a really high-pitched snare drum, I would try it, because never say no in the first place, but try it. But I can most likely say that this is not the track I'm going to send back, because if it's a really high-tuned snare drum, wouldn't be the right thing for me, because it doesn't go together with the stuff I'm playing. I'm playing with a lot of ghost notes. Yeah. Also, same if you have like a real heavy, pingy, 24-inch rock cymbal. Fantastic for a lot of guys, probably. It wouldn't go together with my sound. It can be a great instrument, but doesn't fit for me. And I know this because I tried a lot. I always had a lot of different cymbals, different drum sizes, drum heads, and so I tried and tried and tried, and I listened to a lot of music, as I said, and that's how I developed my
Your
style.
sound, yes.
My style and my sound, which is of course all. There's a combination of all the stuff I was experiencing before, by listening, by seeing. I went to a lot of concerts, like for many years. Every band came through Nuremberg or this area where I live. I was there whenever I could, listening.
Yeah. So you found your sound just through life, through your life's journey,
through life,
and being open to all influences.
Absolutely.
And adapt and absorb and try to learn and then experiment.
Yeah.
You've been playing our cymbals now for almost 18 years, since 2007. That's hundreds of shows and sessions you've played with them. With that kind of experience, what makes a cymbal good to you?
Interesting question.
What's a good cymbal?
A good cymbal is when I play on it and it sounds like me. Very simple. And I mean, we know each other quite well, you and me, and we talked a lot about these kind of things, and sound and touch and everything. And the cymbals, all the cymbals I'm playing, feel good. They sound good, of course, but the first thing before I hear sound is how does it feel when I touch it?
Yeah.
And they all feel amazingly great. Yeah. And this is prior to everything for me. Mm-hmm. It has to feel good. And then it feels good, and I get this. So that's why I'm married with Meinl cymbals. I can clearly say I'm really married with you guys by heart. That's a sound which has everything I need. It warms and it feels good, and it has big variety. Like one cymbal has many sounds. It's not just that one sound. There might be cymbals in other series who have that. They are supposed to be loud and but the cymbals I'm playing, especially in the Byzance series, they are so delicate. You can use, like if I use I do some stuff with mallets, a lot of swells, with brushes, even with sticks. There's quite some different sounds, and this is a very challenging also to take the same cymbals to different musical situations, but they always fit, and the cymbals allow me to use them in every musical situation. As I said before, like if I would go to a big stadium show with a rock band, maybe some of the cymbals wouldn't be the perfect match. Yeah.
But when you play, for example, at the Luitpoldhain, which is an open air in front of 30,000 people, you still play the same setup.
Yes.
Same cymbal setup.
Yeah.
So as far as size of the arena, it's like a stadium.
Yeah, right. But I mean, if I would be in a musical situation where it's like really loud, let's say,
then Deep Purple stuff.
I wouldn't come with my flat ride.
Yeah,
probably
not.
Not. But I have to say, the flat ride cuts through even a loud band, because there's some frequency.
It's like a triangle.
Yeah,
a triangle also cuts through.
Yeah,
no matter how loud it's around it, it's always cuts through, and it's a little bit like this with a flat ride too.
Would be an interesting thing to try if you play in a hard rock band using the flat ride, or at some point a triangle, and see whether it cuts through. But I think it would cut through, because the frequency are so unique, so special.
Yes.
There's nothing in that area.
Nothing, no. You would have to have a good microphone, good engineer, but it would probably work.
Yeah. So, but to sum it up, the reason why I feel so good with the Meinl cymbals is the touch and the sound. I mean, that's all which matters.
Yeah. The touch is something I hear quite often from all kinds of drummers, that the cymbal must feel good in the moment the stick hits the cymbal.
Exactly.
You have to feel good in a physical way, not too stiff. The cymbal, things like this are very important.
Yeah.
But I remember, I don't know which album it was, one of your solo albums, quite some time ago, when I heard it for the first time, and I felt immediately that the cymbal sounds are perfect on that album, and we make those sounds for records like this. This is what I thought. We make these cymbals to go on records like this by drummers like you. It was a perfect fit. Immediately. I knew it. I knew it.
The funniest thing is, you would give my cymbal setup to another drummer, it wouldn't sound probably.
No, because, and that's something I always often say when I have drummers here who are here to handpick the cymbals. They play the cymbals and they're quite unsure, but then I tell them, let the cymbal find you too. It's not that you need to find your cymbal. No, the cymbal must find you as well. And this takes time.
You have to meet.
You have to meet up, and it's a path you have to walk together, and it takes some time. But once you found each other, it's a fit for lifetime.
Right.
Where I had this experience very heavily was with a Dutch drummer Wim de Vries.
Oh yeah.
He was here hand-picking cymbals, and I always told him, Wim, just give it some time. I know the two of you, the cymbal and you, the drummer, you will find each other, you will get along, and it'll be for life. And this is exactly what happened a few years later. Yeah. So the drummer should also always give the cymbal the chance to find the right drummer, not vice versa.
Yeah.
It's both ways.
Yeah. You know the tricky thing between, the difference between a cymbal and a drum is a drum you can adjust.
Yeah.
A cymbal, I mean, I'm known for taping cymbals to make them a little shorter. I hardly do it now with the later cymbals I got from you, but I did it in the beginning because I just like if a cymbal is there and it goes away quite soon. That's why I taped them. But that's basically all you can do. You can tighten it up a little bit, but you don't change the sound of a cymbal. But a drum you can tune. So, or you can change the skin.
Yes.
In order to make it feel better. Yeah. But a cymbal feels good or it doesn't feel good. If it doesn't feel good, you cannot change it. You can change the cymbal. Yeah. And as I said before, I don't have any one cymbal which doesn't feel good, because otherwise it wouldn't travel with me around the world.
Yeah, thank you. That's nice to hear. And I
want good things in my life. I'm looking on all levels. That's my intention. I'm looking for great things which make me feel good. So if I would travel with my cymbal case and I know there's one cymbal which I don't like, or also vice versa, the cymbal doesn't like me, we haven't met, let's say, why should I take it? Yeah. There's an interesting thing. A friend of mine is a DJ who is traveling around the world, big shows, meaning and playing vinyl. So he's still carrying his vinyl bags, which is quite heavy. Yeah? So I asked him, how do you choose when he goes on a big world tour? I mean, on the internet, like, of course, you can download and, go to Beatport and load 1 million tracks, and you have it all on a hard drive. But he said, well, every record has to have a meaning. Otherwise, I don't take it, because it takes space. Not much, but you can, I don't know how many records you can fit in a regular record bag. 30, 35, let's say, some around that. So you have, maybe if you have 3 bags, you have, let's say, 100 vinyls. Yeah. So every record has to have that meaning to be played. If I'm not sure I'm playing it, no.
Why take it? Yeah. And it's too expensive.
So back to the cymbal thing.
Yes.
I mean, it got really expensive with overweight and stuff to carry. I mean, I can carry 2 cymbal bags, and I don't want to, by the way. If we go on a regular tour, like with a truck and stuff, yes, then we have a lot of spare stuff. But when I'm traveling just by myself, I have not always actually. Thanks to you, I'm getting some support, which is fantastic. But if I take my cymbal bag, I just take what I really know I want to play, and I'm looking forward taking them out and putting them up. And this is a very personal thing, because a drum set I never take any foot pedal, I never take snare, because I really don't care, because I know I can adjust it. But cymbals are very personal. But even when I call it, well, I'm going to Japan, let's say, like you did last time, it was the same cymbals I'm playing, and I know they are so close to mine.
Yes.
Yeah. And that little difference, I mean, nobody realizes. I'm realizing maybe a little bit, but I put a little tape on, like I did on mine. But I know how I can make that cymbal sound 100% like me.
And the feel when you play is going to be the same.
It's completely
it's there.
The same.
It's there. Yeah.
And so that's very comfortable to have that consistency. And Meinl is very consistent.
Would you say that the sound of your cymbals have shaped the way you compose music for your solo albums, or would those solo albums sound totally different with a different cymbal choice?
No, I wouldn't say that the music in general I'm composing would sound different, but the drum parts, yes.
The drum parts.
That yes. Mm-hmm. But like my harmonic structures I love,
that would stay, yes.
They would still be the same even if I wouldn't put drums on it.
Yeah.
I think more or less, because again, that's like a taste thing, stuff I like or I don't like. Mm-hmm. But the way I play drums is heavily influenced by the sound.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the way you play drums eventually shapes the style of the record, the mood, the atmosphere.
Yes, that yes,
yeah.
Yes. But like the overall composition when I'm composing on the piano, I mean I know how I sound, I know how I play, and sometimes I have like my flat ride, which is on in all my setups. I know exactly that's gonna be. So, oh yeah, I can hear it. Yeah, that influences me then.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes. Nice.
But it definitely influences my way of playing, of course. Mm-hmm. The sound dictates how you play.
Yeah.
There's no matter what.
Mm-hmm. When watching you playing live, you look like you're really enjoying it. Totally being in that moment, enjoying every note and being able to immerse yourself into all kinds of moods, which then also seem to transfer to all other musicians on stage, creating a wonderful atmosphere. I find that very fascinating, that ability to be able to immerse yourself into all kinds of moods depending on the music that you're playing. Is that something that you were always able to do naturally? Or are there times where it has been difficult at times?
Well, yeah, of course we are humans, so not every day is the same, and we are going through phases in our life. When you are in a happy phase of your life, the way of composing is different, the way of interacting with people is different than in a darker period, let's say. But as I said, like when I hit on a cymbal, it has to feel good. When I make music or when I spend time with people, my intention is to have a good time. Not saying that I always succeed, because we are humans, and sometimes you say something and the other person gets it the wrong way, which I find very tricky. I mean, we see it in the world.
Yes.
Crazy. But the big world starts in our little world. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm just talking to you and I say something which is meant to be funny, but you don't get it. I mean,
I know what you mean.
Because you get it.
I know what you mean.
You get my humor. Yeah. But this happens so many times. Mm-hmm. And of course, in relationships between woman and man, many times. But also in a band. Somebody gets up in the morning, you are fresh already, getting up in the bus, and somebody is still sleepy, and you say, I don't know, something stupid. Hey, you look great today. And somebody gets it the wrong way. Mm-hmm. And the whole day is like, So, but my intention is to give everyone a good time, including myself. But if I don't have a good time, how can I give everybody a good feel? So it starts with ourselves, that we try to have a good time. And I'm not saying to run around and say, oh, hi, everything is great. Bullshit. No, not at all. Mm. So I'm working on that every day. First of all, I'm getting up in the morning, and this is not something I'm just saying. I really mean it, because I had some health issues many years ago. Thanks God, I'm allowed to do what I do. I love so much, even 10 years after now, and I get up in the morning, and I'm really thankful that I'm allowed to do what I'm doing. I have people I dearly love, and I guess some of these people are quite happy that I'm in their lives, let's put it that way. I hope, but I don't have that really in my hands. But what I have in my hands is what I'm giving to the world. That's why I'm choosing, or I try to choose carefully what I'm saying. But as I just try to explain, it's not on me, because I try, but how it's gonna be received, you never know.
Yes.
That's the tricky thing with emails, for example, or SMS. You're in the car, you're just writing something quickly, and somebody else gets it completely the wrong way. Yeah? And in bigger thinking in the world, there can be a war can start because of stuff like that.
From a little misunderstanding.
Yes.
Yes. In the worst case.
Or in a band, for example, there can be some tension.
Communication failures.
Yeah.
Yes, happens.
So life is about communication. Music is about communication. So this is the stuff I'm working on. And I would say from my the time management is equal playing drums, thinking. I mean, I'm a musician 24/7. Even if I don't think about music, I'm making music somehow. I try that my whole life is surrounded by music. Even if I'm just laying down on a lake, watching the sun, or taking a swim, music is lingering on. Yeah. And then I really try to give everyone around me a good time, as much as possible. I go in a room. I don't say, "Well, shit, it's raining." No.
It rains regardless.
Exactly.
It's out of your control. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I try to make things in the best possible way, what I think, and I'm offering this. So that's why I'm choosing careful what kind of music I put out. I'm not putting out a song every day, every week. I have a lot of music laying on hard drives, and I don't think the world needs all of that.
Mm-hmm.
But you have a lot of people who, thanks God, a lot of people love or like the music I'm doing. But I'm sure there's many they can't stand. There's many people they can't stand how I play drums, but I don't give I don't care. And I'm not mad. By the way, that's also very important. I'm not mad. I try to not get mad, and it really takes a lot to get me mad, because let live. Just do your thing. We can have a coffee. Maybe I like the way, I like the cymbals you choose, or I don't like, but it doesn't matter. This is your life. You express yourself with that kind of sound. Beautiful. Let me do what I want to do. Mm-hmm. And if you argue about it, if you try to argue, I'm the wrong person. I go.
You walk away. Yeah.
Walk away.
Yes.
Yeah.
So life's too short.
Life's too short.
And the older you get, the more you understand that.
Yes. And the most important sentence I think in life is stay out of competition. I try to stay out of competition. Mm-hmm. I know I'm not living in a world, especially in the whole music thing with charts and everything. You have an album out and you're competing with others. Yes. But I'm not in sports. I don't need to be the first. Who is the best drummer? There's no best drummer. There is no best drummer. Yeah. You can say, well, my favorite drummer is that person. This man, this lady. Yes. Somebody else says, well, you are completely wrong. This is the best drummer. Well, yeah, for you. This is the best soccer team. Mm-hmm. I love Bayern Munich. Yeah, I love Manchester City. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Fine. You think Ronaldo is the best player, somebody else Messi, somebody else whatever. Mm-hmm. So I try to stay out of that. I have my preferences, yeah. There's people I like, there's people I don't like, and I try, well, not only try, but I stay away from people which don't do me good. So
smart. That's very smart.
Yeah. Not that I always succeeded in my life, but nowadays
you can choose.
More than ever.
Yeah.
And I'm very careful who is in my crew, who is in my band, people around me, because at the end of the day we are going out, and my name is big because it's my band.
It's your band. Yeah.
So everybody, I try to give everybody space to shine, but at the end of the day, they are for this organization, let's say, and the organization is Wolfgang Haffner. Yeah. So same thing when I play for somebody. I want to be respected, and I try to really give respect to people, no matter whether it's a famous musician on stage or whether it's our bus driver or one of our crew. They are equally important, and that's very, very important to realize. And I always say thank you when I'm go in a hotel or out of the hotel. I meet some cleaning lady, cleaning guy. I say thank you. It's and not just to say it, but I really mean it, because without a lot of these kind of professions or then people who do these professions, our life wouldn't be as pleasant as it is. And we are living in a great place, I think. I mean, I'm born in Germany, and I'm allowed to live here. I was in Spain for many years, which was a great place too. But we are not living in Ukraine. We are not living in Russia or wherever, some very poor country in Asia or in Africa or South America. So we don't have crazy crises. I mean, there are some crises, but we are still living in paradise. I mean, and whoever says something else should travel around the world. And I know what I'm talking about, because I'm traveling a lot.
There is this German word, it's called Weltanschauung, which means, translated, is like an opinion, having an opinion about the world, Weltanschauung. And in your case, Weltanschauung comes from die Weltanschauung.
Yes.
And that is a really important thing. Yeah. Now, you said you try to give everyone a good time. Yeah. As a person, which I respect a lot, but as drummers, obviously, you also try to give everyone good time.
Yeah.
So what is good time, and does it always require a metronome? No. From a drummer perspective, what is good time?
When it feels good, it feels good.
This goes for what you just said. You're trying to give everyone a good time.
Yeah.
It feels good.
Yes.
The cleaning lady feels good when you say thank you.
Yes.
And your bass player feels good when you give him a good time.
I remember a session we did in the studio, and it was one of the few times in the studio I can recall when I got in an argument with a producer. Because, I mean, actually the other way around, the producers tried to argue with me, because the band wanted to go in one. There was a fade out, and the band just started playing, and it wanted to go somewhere, and it was on a click, and it didn't take off. And I said, well, take off the click. And suddenly we played it once, and suddenly the band was flying. So I don't know, maybe I guess it went a little faster, and then the guy got completely mad. But it's not on the click. So you want something which feels good or not? And some of the classic recordings, speeding up, slowing down. A good example is always Street Life from Crusaders. Street Life. It starts something like, and the ending, really, I don't know, 10 beats, at least faster or so. And I never realized, because it's just natural. The music just wanted to go that way. And when it feels good, then it's good. And I mean, we cannot control ourselves. I mean, we can, yes, but we shouldn't control ourselves always and stick to a click. For what reason? Of course, if you have computers running, yes. But I really don't care anymore in my band. I mean, we play without clicks, and I'm speeding up at some point, or a fill gets a little shorter than it should be, and I'm my downbeat is maybe a little faster than the other ones.
So you play without click, you just said, live.
Yeah.
And counting in, is that based on a click, or is it just by feel?
By feel.
By feel.
And I have a I'm tricking myself because that I'm a band leader, so I'm going in front doing an announcement. Normally, when I'm playing behind somebody, I can concentrate on the tempo. With a metronome, I can look, or I just think, okay, that's the time, while somebody's announcing. So, but in my band, I'm going front, next song. I'm rushing back, and I'm always too fast. So, at the moment, I take like, let's say 1 second, okay, next song, okay, and then slower. So I have that feeling how that song should be, then I count it in a little slower, and sometimes I'm even too fast.
Yeah. It's the adrenaline then that comes in, and then it's natural.
But I also tried it many times with a click, and I said, well, the click is way too slow.
Yeah.
Because it's the adrenaline, and I mean, so far it works. If it wouldn't work on a certain song, or I mean, let's put it that way. There's songs they need a certain tempo. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But in the music I'm doing, whether it's 2 beats faster or 3 beats, or it speeds up, it doesn't matter normally. Yeah. But there is certain songs where I probably would, I mean, not one of my songs, but let's say Sledgehammer is a song like that. I could imagine if I would play that song, it shouldn't go anywhere. It should be there, right there. Or some of the Prince stuff, or those kind of things. But if you listen to some old Deep Purple records, for example, they're speeding up.
Yes, it was irrelevant at that time.
Jazz and
it's still good time.
Yeah, but it's music.
Yes,
and music is not about metronome. And if you listen, I know you're a big classical music lover. You listen to the greatest orchestras in the world, like the Berlin Philharmonic, for example. They're not speeding up just by chance, but they're speeding up on purpose. On purpose, yes. Because the music requires it. Yeah. Yes. Or you relax and you go down. And great songwriters, or singers do that. I had this experience with a German singer-songwriter, Konstantin Wecker. He's very known in the country. And that was the time in late 80s I joined his band, and I was like click, 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 everything would click. I mean, the few hours I didn't have a click in my ear was at night. But the rest of the day and night I was click, click, click. And I came there and he said, well, that bridge... No, it should go at the end of the bridge. We should take the tempo out. No, we have to stay. And I said, no, listen to the lyrics and breathe. Music needs to breathe. Yeah. Different when you talk about a Taylor Swift show, let's say, or a Coldplay, or these stadium shows. I mean, those things also have to be on a time. They are on time code because so much else is going on that is linked to the tempo and the click sequences. But at the end of the day, what gives you a good feeling is somebody who is opening his or her heart, presenting music, whether it's in time on a click track or not. Doesn't. I mean, that's not the main thing. The main thing is what's the feeling being transferred. Yeah, it can be both. I mean, if music is on a click in tempo, it can also feel good. Of course. But metronome is not everything. That's what I mean. Yeah. Actually, that's a very good quote. Metronome is not everything. But I highly recommend to play with a metronome, with a click. At home to practice. I think it's very, very important, especially like the whole recording thing has changed so much. Yes, it builds your internal time, which is always helpful. Of course. Yeah. But what I see or actually hear sometimes is some people who are practicing a lot, and then they come in a situation without a click that they are lost.
Mm-hmm.
So I highly recommend also record yourself at home without a click track.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes with click, sometimes without, and see where do you speed up normally, where do you take it back.
And often, you speed up, and it's the right thing for the music. It's the way you feel it, and it's not wrong or right. If the music feels this way, then it is what it is, and there's nothing right or wrong.
Right. Yeah. But it's a difference whether you are nervous and you wanna say, oh, this next part, it's so difficult. Do I succeed? That's something different. Yeah. But when the music if you listen and if you're feeling, the music will always tell you where to go. What to do. Always. Yeah. Always. Yeah.
You are also the musical director of some very big and prominent music festivals. What factors do you consider when you are curating the lineup?
Very good question. First of all, I get a job like this because they need somebody well known. That's always good for them, for a festival. In order to get some recognition. Okay. And also because I'm known for a certain kind of stuff I'm doing. Yeah? Okay. Then I am bringing bands, singers, the whole variety, which I really like, of course. But at the same time, I've been offered a job, and at the end of the day, no matter how good the music is, if nobody shows up,
useless, makes no sense.
Useless. So, and that's it's a spagat. What's the word in English?
It's a compromise.
It's a compromise, and I'm not a good compromiser. Can you say?
Yeah, they will understand. I'm sure. Yeah.
Yes,
people will understand.
I try to make as little compromises as possible in my life. I'm not compromising with my sound. For example, I give you an example when I know which restaurant I want to go to. Why should I go anywhere else? If I know this restaurant is around the corner, I'm up for fish today, and luckily I can choose. I mean, a lot of people cannot choose, right? So and three of my friends, we have a meeting. They say, well, but we like to go in that restaurant. If I really don't want to go, I'm not going, and I'm known for that. Yeah? And I realized, and you can transfer that to the music. I realized that if I do something which I don't feel, I can't be good at it. Then I'm sitting in a restaurant I don't want to be. Why should I go on holidays in a country I don't want to be there? Or if I don't like the mountains, why should I go to the mountains? I mean, I like the mountains, but let's say. Or why should I go to a 35 degrees seaside if I love the winter and I stay in the shadow in summertime, you know? So those things. So and I don't see anything good in compromise in that sense. I know that in real life you have to make compromises. Otherwise you have to sit on top of a mountain by yourself.
Everything is going to be very egoistic, without a compromise, which isn't good.
Yes. But on the other hand, I'm an artist. I have my own band. So why should I do any kind of compromise in my band? Everything is the way I want it. And if somebody else wants something else, then he or she is welcome to do her own band. For example, I played with a famous German jazz rock band, Passport, for many years. And we always played the songs of the composer, Klaus Doldinger, famous German composer. And at some point, at the end, just before I left the band, I asked him, we are all writers, why can't we bring some of the music? He said, well, if you want to play your own music, make your own band. And that's when I started my own band, which is fair enough.
Fair enough, yeah.
But also at the same time, it's really complicated. Like in my new band now, they are all great writers, and they're great band leaders in their own right. They're doing great own albums. So, but the big name, so to speak, over the whole, on top of the whole thing, is my name, right? But they are all known musicians. So. Compromise is the wrong word, but I'm thinking carefully, how do I give them a good spot to present themselves, to give them respect? But at the end of the day, it's still my show. If I don't want to play that song in a certain spot, I don't play it. I'm not compromising with that, for example. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So if somebody from the agency tells me, well, you should do this and this, I'm listening, yes, but at the end of the day, I'm deciding how we travel, because I know how I feel good. In another situation, I couldn't. Then somebody else is deciding, yeah. And then the compromise is for me to say, okay, well, it's a tour with a train, which I'm not a fan of, but okay. That's a compromise then. Mm. But in my own music world, I definitely try to not compromise. But as I said, we are not living in a place or in a world just by ourselves. So we are communicating with people. But when it comes to music, compromise is never good for me. Mm. I did some productions with another production partner. Never do it again. I know what I want, and if I have to say then, okay, you want that fat snare, I want the high snare, or the other way around, or you want a cymbal there, but I feel I want to play the whole song just on a hi-hat. Well, we do a compromise. That's never good. In art, I don't like to compromise. Let's put it that way. Yeah?
I got a question from Annika Nilles, our
one of my favorite
drummer, Annika Nilles. I told her that we're going to do this podcast, and she has a question which goes with what you just said. And her question is, in your role as a band leader, what is the most important thing for you in the role as a band leader, and why? That's her question.
Try to give everybody a good time. Double meaning. Good timing, but try to make everybody feel good, because then they play their best, and that whole music transmits to the audience. That's how I would put it with my Franconian English.
Yeah. No, that sums it up perfectly. Yeah. Well, in August 2014, 10 years ago, you experienced, you mentioned it, life-threatening heart attack.
Right.
Looking back, what lessons have you taken away from that experience, and how has your life changed since then?
I get that question a lot. And I always say the same thing. It's, first of all, I'm very thankful. But coming back to the compromising, for me it's even more, since that day, I'm even more going, what do I want to do, and what I don't want to do. It's equally important.
Yes.
What I want and what I don't want.
Yes.
Sometimes, like saying the word no. I was never really good in saying no. And that helped me.
No is, I'm famous for saying no for some reason.
Yeah.
And I always say, if you say no, you always say yes to yourself.
Yes. But now you mentioned that it's true. You say no. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're a very positive guy. But you know what you want.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, but the majority doesn't know what they want, I would say. And probably I was one part of that majority up until then. Probably. I never thought about it, but yeah, maybe. So it feels good to get up in the morning, do what I'm doing, making some people happy, but without that compromising. But it's a great thing. You just do something and people love it wherever I go. Yeah. But I know life can be over and will be over at some point.
Yeah, like this.
That.
Yeah.
And I also don't care what I'm leaving or. I mean, I am doing. Now I have thanks God, I have the chance to do some music, but I'm not thinking of what will be happening with that music once I'm gone, and so I'm just doing.
Being in the moment.
And I'm being in the moment, and I wanna become this sounds like a platitude, but I wanna become a better human being every day. I'm working on that. Meaning, I'm thinking even more careful. What do I release? Not only as music, but also as a drummer. I'm not really known for having a GoPro and doing those videos. I'm watching some of them. Annika does some great stuff, by the way. Our friend Benny, of course, Benny Grab, greetings. And Joost, Nickel, fantastic stuff. But it's not my thing, I realized. I just feel stupid doing stuff like that. Up until now, maybe I'm doing it one day. But there's other guys who do that great. But I have my things I really like to do. Yeah. But I'm not taking so much care about that whole drumming community as I used to for a while. But I respect it, but my focus is somewhere else. But so I'm focusing on things I have in my hands and all other things, and there's many, I don't have in my hands. I don't put any energy in.
Are there things you should do more, but you never do them?
No.
Because you don't have time and focus to do it. Are there things you should do more?
No.
No.
Otherwise I would do it.
Okay.
No. Should do. Who says I should do?
You know for yourself, I should do this, but you never had the chance to do them.
But I'm not living like that.
Okay.
Yeah. For example, probably in the early 2000s, I was spending a lot of time in Mallorca. A friend of mine moved there, the drummer we both know. And one morning I was in the pool with a bottle of wine, just by myself. The sun rises. I said, wow, these rock stars. Maybe I could live here too at some point in my life. And a few years later, I started living in Ibiza. There was no necessity to go to Spain. I mean, I'm going to Spain anyway to play. But I just realized I was there visiting some friends. And, could be nice. And I stayed for 8 years. Just like that. But I just did it because I wanted.
Yep.
And there is nothing, seriously, there's nothing I would say now, I should have done this. No. I smoked a lot of cigarettes in my life, for example. I shouldn't have smoked so many cigarettes because then I wouldn't have, who knows. That was my life. I shouldn't have eaten less meat. I should be a vegetarian since 20 years, or I don't know, whatever. No.
No regrets.
No. Yeah, there were some things I did to people, let's say, for sure. Relationships and stuff. Relationships, not sips. Relationships. Or there's stuff I wouldn't do nowadays with my knowledge, with the stuff I experienced. That's why I released a lot of music stuff. Some stuff maybe I wouldn't release anymore, let's put it that way. But that's what I tried to say before. I every day I try to be a better human being and try to choose carefully what I send out in any way, feeling wise, music, everything. And I wanna do something good, and I want to feel good, and I want the people around me to have a good time. But at the end of the day, if I leave a room and somebody says, what an asshole, it's not in my hand. Yeah. But I don't want to treat this person before like, I don't want to treat that person not good. But if somebody says something stupid, I can say something stupid too and leave a room. Yeah. But then I make a mark for myself in my book, or actually, I erased a lot of numbers over the years. And that's also saying no. Right, and there's no, because I'm born in a very positive family, I would say. Grew up in a very good area in Germany, and I mean very good, like quiet and peaceful family. And there was more yes than no. But I said, I've played thousands of concerts, and I said, for many years, I said yes to everything, because I wanted some big band gig, yeah. Symphony orchestra with drums, yes. I did this and a lot of times I was sitting in situations saying, holy shit. Do I need to play a jazz thing at Sunday morning, 11, after falling out of the tour bus at 5 in the morning? But I did it. A long time ago, but I did many of those things, and hundreds and then thousands of them, which it made me to the person I am now. Yeah, and I know what I want, and I don't, and I know what I don't want. So I learned that word no. Coming back to your question finally, I learned that word no very much. Actually, I was laying in a hospital, I remember that, and there was an offer for a big tour which I didn't want to do, but the money was so good, and normally I don't care as much in my life about those aspects as much. No, not at all. But then I woke up in the hospital and said, okay, so life, I get a second chance. Life can be over very fast. So why should I spend a few months on the road with a band I don't like? There's some guys in the band I don't like. I have a lot of money after. No, I want to be happy. I want to feel good. So I said no. And that came after that. Mm-hmm. So there's nothing bad in saying no. And also that's very clear. And it's also, it's a matter how you say no. You can say, I'm clearly no or yes, this is what I want, up until here, not further, okay. Makes life much more easy. Mm-hmm. Than, I don't know, yes, but I would like to.
Now you have to be clear when
Clearness.
Clear and communication.
Clear communication.
No doubt. Yeah.
Music.
It's
clear.
The same. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, as a human being and as a drummer, giving everyone a good time is a wonderful thought, and I think this sums up this podcast perfectly. Giving everyone a good time, as a drummer and as a human being.
It's a double meaning.
It's a double meaning. Wonderful. Thank you for your time and for your wonderful words and for your insight.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.